Hello guys, welcome to my session. In I have created the new series on the Azure Devops where I have deployed the application on Kubernetes cluster by using the CD pipeline, and also I have covered some troubleshooting which I faced in my recently in my project. So those things I have also covered in this session. So here you can see I have set up the pipeline, and you can see here. So my pipeline has been triggered. Also, I have covered some troubleshooting, some case scenario, and the pipeline failed issue. Like you can see here, like when I have triggered the pipeline, I am getting this error. So this error related to my code, and so it's the duplicate mapping, as you can see here in the error logs, and it's line number 13. So we have to go to the repo, and you can see here there's duplicate mapping here in my code. So I have started from the scratch level in the Azure DevOps, like how do you push and pull your code from Git or from local machine to the Azure repo? How do we create the uh, SSL? How do we create the certificate for so that your Git will be authenticate with the Azure repo, and they can easily push your code from your local machine to the Azure repo. And even you can see here if we do any changes in the in my local machine in my through the Visual Studio Code, so automatic my pipeline will be triggered. And also I have covered some troubleshooting during my setup the Azure DevOps. You can see here we are getting some error related to push and pull from your local machine to the Azure repo. Okay, so it's so here you can see here, so we have to git pull, and we can modify the code changes in the YAML file. So let me increase here. So here you can see I have changed the replica from 6 to 4. See here in the Azure repo, it was the 6 replica. So I did change it in my Visual Studio Code, and you can see here my pipeline has been automatic triggered, and the deployment and the pod will be created on my Kubernetes cluster. So we have to wait sometimes, and you can see my pipeline jobs has been finished, and this is my jump box where I have connected my Kubernetes cluster, and you can see here kubectl get pod, and you can see here last 41 seconds my pod has been deployed. Okay. So in this way, like you can see here, and let me show you. And in this case also you can see I'm getting some error related to Git. Like we are trying to clone our repository, and you can see here it's not able to connect my repository. It is getting error like authentication fail and how to read the remote repository. So in this session, in this session, I have covered this type of issue, like how do we authenticate uh, your Git from Azure repo, so that we can able to clone our repository, and then we can push and pull our code from local machine to the Azure repo. So similar way you can see here in this session also I have covered some troubleshooting issue, like we are not able to push our code from my local machine to the Azure repo, and we are getting this type of error. So how do we fix this issue? Those things I have covered in this session. And similar, so I have created around 16 to 70 session on the Azure DevOps. Like I have started from the basic, like what is Git, what are all the commands we use in the Git, and how do we set up the pipeline. Okay, from the scratch level, like for the CD pipeline, where we can deploy our application to the Kubernetes cluster. And also I have covered uh, some troubleshooting which recently I faced in my project. So recently what I faced, I was trying to create some resource in the Kubernetes environment. So you can see here. So I have deployed one application, the Fluentd application, but it is not showing in our cluster here. You can see here. So I have created this cluster, and the Fluentd has been created. but when I check the kubectl get pod, so my fluentd pod is not visible in this cluster. Okay, so how do we fix the issue? How do we get my application, and what is the reason? What is the root cause? Why my deployment is not visible in the Kubernetes cluster? So, so those things, this, so this issue I have covered, and again I have covered one another issue. So this is the one of the issue when I am trying to deploy our application. So you can see here. So you can see here, like we are not able to resource mapping not found. When you are when you are going to create, here you can see kubectl apply elasticsearch.yaml file. So this is my deploy manifest file. I am trying to deploy the Elasticsearch application, and you can see here the CRD installed first and the version are back, namespace no match, resource mapping not found. So this is the error, like we are not able to deploy our application. So similar, I have another application here. And the same application I was trying to deploy through the Helm command, and you can see here the pod disruption budget is not available. The installation failed. So how do we fix this issue, this type of issue when you are trying to install the application through the Helm chart or Helm command, but your installation has been failed. So what is the error? Why do we fix? How do we fix this issue? So those things I have covered in this session. Okay. So you can see here the I am trying to install Elasticsearch. And this is the namespace and this is the manifest file. And after this output, we are getting this error installation failed and unable to build Kubernetes object from this release manifest. So I have fixed the same issue in the same session. If you go here, so now you can see here at the end of session, I have deployed my application. So earlier I was getting this issue. And the pod disruption budget here you can see installation failed. Okay, so after the troubleshooting, you can see here I am able to deploy my application. You can see here the last deployed and the same command I have used, and you can see at the end of troubleshooting now my application has been deployed, and you can see here. So that's a different issue why it is pending state data I have already covered in the previous session. But the here thing you can see here the my application has been deployed, and as you already know I have created uh, multiple series like in this series I have covered about the customer requirement where I have created around 25 session on this project customer requirement, like whenever you will get a chance to work in the environment, so which type of customer requirement generally like we faced from the customer, like they have some requirement, they have to do some changes in the cluster. So those things I have covered so that the you can also get the real-time exposure on the Kubernetes, like if interview asks you some scenario-based question or some they ask about you the project detail, or sometimes they ask about your day to what's your day-to-day task in the Kubernetes environment so that you can explain very well. I have separate series on the also like about day-to-day tasks and the real-time troubleshooting. So I have created around 20 plus live troubleshooting session there. So what all the issue I face in my project. So based on that, I have created those session so that you can also get the real-time exposure on the Kubernetes and you will be more confident during the interview, and you can easily mention relevant experience in the Kubernetes once